Well, good afternoon, and thanks for watching THV11 News at Noon. I'm Amanda Jaeger. Michael Aaron has the day off, and joining me, we have meteorologist Scott Covert here with a first look at your weather forecast. And today is a very bizarre day. Well, let me rewind. Today is a completely normal day for December, but bizarre considering what we'll experience in a matter of like 3 days.
I'm tracking sleet today, sleet on radar, and then in about 4 to 5 days, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, we're going to be looking at near record high temperatures back in the 70s. The roller coaster that is Arkansas weather continues. Here's a live look at radar, and I know your eye is drawn to southwestern Arkansas, western parts of the state. A lot of colors there, some interesting colors, blues, purples, pinks. That would be indicative of some wintry frozen precipitation. Yes, we actually are seeing a few reports of some sleet, occasional flurries in southwestern Arkansas. It's not going to amount to really anything, and here's why. Temperatures are well above the freezing mark. Little Rock at 41, Arkadelphia at 36, Mena at 34 degrees. Not only are the temperatures above freezing, but there's some dry air in place. Not all of what you see on radar is actually making it to the ground. It's very spotty and scattered in nature. We'll see a high today of 45 degrees. Can you believe that? It's going to be a very cold day. That 20% chance of a couple scattered showers or sleet showers in southern Arkansas, western parts of the state. That'll continue over the next couple of hours before eventually transitioning to all rain. We do have a big warm up in store. We'll talk about it and when you can expect it coming up.
The focus on COVID-19 in Arkansas is ramping up after the first known case of the Omicron variant is found in the state. The Arkansas Department of Health shows that active cases did drop over the weekend, but there are still new cases. According to the latest numbers, there are more than 400 additional cases of COVID reported in the state. The number of Arkansans hospitalized by the virus hasn't changed, but still, the total number of hospitalizations is at more than 500. This comes as health officials continue to push for people to get the vaccine. Nearly 5,000 Arkansans got a shot yesterday. The Omicron variant of COVID has now been detected in 45 states, and as I mentioned, Arkansas. It's not the dominant strain yet, but Dr. Anthony Fauci warns that will happen soon. Average new COVID cases have nearly doubled since the beginning of November. CBS's Mola Lenghi reports from New York, a state that broke its record for daily COVID cases for a third day in a row.
We're going to see the number of cases go up pretty steeply.
America's top doctors sounded the alarm Sunday, pushing Americans to get vaccinated and boosted.
Be prudent in everything else you do. When you travel in your indoor settings that are congregate, wear a mask.
Average daily cases have almost doubled since the beginning of November, and breakthrough cases for those vaccinated are on the rise. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker revealed Sunday they both have mild cases of COVID. That's despite being boosted.
If you've had vaccines and a booster, you're very well protected against Omicron causing you severe disease.
But the disruptions caused by COVID outbreaks are growing. 3 NFL games and 5 NBA games have been postponed, and 6 NHL teams won't play for at least a week. A growing number of universities are now delaying the return to in-person classes after winter break. Among them, Harvard, Middlebury, and DePaul in Chicago. And cruise ships are seeing COVID cases again. Royal Caribbean's Symphony of the Seas docked in Miami Saturday after almost 50 people tested positive for the virus. In New York City, which saw over 12,000 new cases in one day, the mayor said he'll decide this week if the Times Square New Year's Eve celebration can go on, as Broadway shows like Hamilton shuttered over the weekend, and the producers of the Christmas Spectacular starring the Rockettes canceled the remainder of their shows.
But COVID came early this year.
And once again, Saturday Night Live had no live audience, no musical performance, and few live sketches after last-minute changes for COVID safety.
Well, this is the beginning of a testing line that stretches half a city block. With long lines like this across New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio announced that more testing sites would open. That's a similar site across the country, as health officials urge regular testing ahead of holiday gatherings. Mola Lenghi, CBS News, Manhattan.
President Biden will address the nation tomorrow about COVID, and it's expected he'll have a stark message for the unvaccinated. Meanwhile, Moderna has released new data that shows a third shot increases antibody levels 37-fold. And with many people planning their Christmas gatherings with friends and family this week, we had a few of you reach out to us about getting COVID tested ahead of the holidays. More specifically, how many days ahead of Christmas should you get a COVID test? So let's verify. Infectious disease specialists say you should start planning for a COVID test today. A PCR test, which is sent to a lab, can take 2 to 3 days to get results. Even if you are vaccinated, with Omicron in many parts of the country, doctors recommend still getting tested if you'll be gathering with people who are considered immunocompromised. And if you can do a PCR test days in advance, a rapid test the day of is also a good idea. It's also not too late to get that booster before Christmas, and while it won't fully protect by Christmas Day, getting the booster now can still generate some extra protection before the holidays. Tough news for the Arkansas Razorback football team. We've learned defensive lineman Trey Williams will not be joining the Hogs for the Outback Bowl after being arrested over the weekend. In a tweet, Williams says he'll be pursuing his dreams of the NFL, turning his attention to the draft. The announcement came about 12 hours after Williams was released from the Washington County Jail after posting a $765 bond. Fayetteville police arrested Williams early Sunday morning for driving while intoxicated. According to a preliminary report, officers found Williams asleep in a car in a McDonald's drive-thru. The report shows Williams had a blood alcohol level of 0.09, just above the legal limit of 0.08 in Arkansas. Williams apologized for the arrest in the tweet, saying he accepts the consequences. He's scheduled to be in court on January 24th. Authorities in Jefferson County are investigating another death in the area. Deputies say hunters came across a man's body lying on Wilbur West Road, just southeast of Pine Bluff, around 6 last night. When investigators arrived, they discovered the man had been shot several times. Officials haven't released the victim's name yet. His body will be sent to the state crime lab to determine when and how he died. North Little Rock police make what they're calling a significant drug arrest as nearly $200,000 worth of drugs are taken off the streets. Officers arrested 33-year-old Michael Hall on outstanding felony warrants. According to a report, during the arrest, officers found nearly 2 pounds of the lethal drug fentanyl with a street value of about $175,000. They also found marijuana, digital scales, and 2 handguns. Hall is facing a slate of charges and is due in court January 4th. Well, medical marijuana sales in Arkansas have reached a big milestone. Just this year alone, about $254 million has been spent by patients this year at the state's 37 dispensaries. That accounts for more than half of all sales since the first dispensary in Arkansas opened in mid-2019. Arkansans have spent $486 million on nearly 72,000 pounds of medical marijuana since that time, and more than $54 million in state tax revenue over that span as well. President Biden's social spending and climate bill appears to be in jeopardy this afternoon after West Virginia's Joe Manchin announced he will not support it. A person familiar tells CBS News the White House and Democratic leaders were informed before Manchin's announcement, but afterwards, some lawmakers and administration officials expressed surprise. Senate Democrats have vowed to take a vote in the new year regardless. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from Capitol Hill.
I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
The dramatic announcement puts much of the president's domestic agenda at risk, and an expiring tax credit for more than 35 million families with children likely won't be renewed. As written, the president's Build Back Better plan included hundreds of billions of dollars to combat climate change, more funding for Medicare, child care, and universal pre-K. Manchin didn't rule out working on those issues, just not as currently written, in a bill costing nearly $2 trillion.
There's a lot of good, but that bill is a mammoth piece of legislation.
But the White House lashed out, saying Manchin's stance is at odds with what he told the president and a breach of his commitments to fellow Democrats. Liberal Democrats also pounced.
We all knew that Senator Manchin couldn't be trusted. The excuses that he just made, I think, are complete bull.
While Manchin has infuriated progressives, the White House is also facing pressure from Democrats to start fulfilling campaign pledges like addressing voting rights.
Kamala Harris.
Vice President Harris came face-to-face with those frustrations Friday night when she spoke with TV and radio host and longtime supporter Charlemagne the God.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin
And
is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
That Kamala Harris, that's the one I like. That's the one I'd like to see more often out here in these streets.
Early Monday morning, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that despite Senator Manchin's objections, the full Senate will consider the Build Back Better legislation early in the new year so that, quote, every member of this body has the opportunity to make their position known on the Senate floor, not just on television. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, the White House.
Well, flights can be grounded for several different things, but there's a new concern rising that could completely change how airliners do business. We'll take a closer look.
It is cold out there today. In fact, parts of the Natural State actually seeing some sleet here at the noon hour. We'll track that shower activity on radar as well as get an idea of what the rest of the week has in store. Here's a hint. We could be tying some all-time record highs. Details coming right up.